the farm up. Swell, yeah.
Good morning cut from the farmer's market. The affirmations you may hear, Seanti, Seanti, Seanti Aeris. We don't have to wonder what we are, and we don't have to worry anymore. So never mind these stories. Let's listen to what's here and let go of the hurry. Breathing mindfully. What the farm?
And I've started wondering, like, am I picking up on, like, television signals and stuff? And, like, sometimes, like, I feel like I'm hearing people talking, like, a conversation. I'm like, is this me? Like, is my mind just making this up? Or am I tuning in to, like, an actual conversation that's happening somewhere?
Tuning into the farmer's market.
Cool.
Feeling good.
Wake the farm up. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Come on in. What? And we're getting down with Seanti Aeris. Yeah. Resounding Source. And the ReMinders podcast, and so many other cool things. It's so cool to have you here with us today.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, I
know we've been trying to link it up for a while.
Oh man, the balcony of the telepathics, there's so many people that just showed up. That's amazing. You've been doing some work in the realms.
Oh yes, that's a fact.
Yeah. I feel like there's
playing in the ether every day.
All these different species are like turning into things that we're connecting with and sharing into, and that's something that brought us together years ago. I was setting up my table selling farmers markets, which is funny. I just came, before we were recording right now, from picking a bunch of tomatoes and cucumbers and cool fun farm market things, and getting to get these little piles. And I was definitely thinking about our conversation and how that's where we first connected. You were bringing music into the farmers markets, and I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that, but I definitely want to hear about your feels in that kind of flow of bringing food and music culture together. I always felt like the musicians often understood what I was doing at the farmers market more so than some other artistic and expressions of human existence. So yeah, I'm excited to hear what you got to share on that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Gosh, do you remember what year that was?
Maybe even like 2014 or 15. Could have been like one of those.
Might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe like 2017 at the latest. But yeah, I've been playing at the Northside Farmers Market for years now. Pretty much as soon as I got back from Chicago, I studied up there for college and came back to the hometown, Cincinnati, and
Cool.
trying to
Okay.
play as much as possible. I love playing at farmers markets. I still do it. The labor of love, for sure.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you said, just bridging the art forms. Those who are getting their hands and feet in the ground and working with the earth, and the way you put it, like working with the ethers, like kind of spreading these the mycelium network of ideas and vibes through music is very, very a collaborative. Just yes.
Yes.
It's an easy collaboration.
Yeah.
I love it. I actually, it was funny that you mentioned bridging those two things, because I know that you did an episode at Tending the Earth.
Yeah.
And that was totally
Saw you
a dream
there.
come true for our mutual friend Marielle, who was always talking about like really getting like not just selling food, but doing the gardening and having people making music at the same time.
Yeah,
Doing those simultaneously. I've been hearing her talk about that as long as I've known her, so it's been super cool that's a One Earth collaborative. We've been making that happen the last couple years. They've got a community garden up there, and in the spring we'll launch the garden with a big musical party, and the two definitely go hand in hand.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the elves. Yeah, we love Marielle and the flowers. We're big elfie fans.
Yeah, I know you guys are. Okay. Yeah, so that's the
I think we all are.
that's the edit elves. I don't know if you get elves and things like that running around in your your studio space that you're working with the resounding source or whatnot, but they're always jumping in here doing mischievous little things, and I kind of like it.
I kind of like it too, and I probably do. I think they're a little bit quieter, but I definitely got the gnomes, man. Like the guitar pick gnomes. Oof, they come and snatch those picks.
Man,
Gotta make sure I'm keeping my eye on that for sure.
Yeah, there's been a lot of studies on our genomes lately, so.
Say more.
Well, they study so that, the more gnomes you have around the studio, that the diversity of the genome signature that comes out and tells into the story, and how many layers that a story can have, so that a range of species can digest that story frequency and absorb the experience of the story into their own accord,
Okay. I can feel that, yeah.
That's some genome stuff.
Gotcha. Get that medicine palatable to all sentient beings and beyond.
Yeah, we get down with our gnomies.
Okay, guys.
Know me, homies.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you just like went straight from farmers markets right into, you're in the garden, you're, doing work, with these people who are doing the work, like all the different realms, like gardening, brings like such a space, interacting with the garden with other people. And yeah, like that's it's so interesting. Like, so I'm curious, like years ago when you were intrigued to come into the market, I can't remember exactly, but I remember having this feel that you had like an aware sensation about why you were wanting to bring that there and connect with that kind of community. Can you maybe like elaborate on like maybe like some of that background that got you inspired to see the vision of that mixture of music and, food culture?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll be honest, part of it was just being a young artist and looking for anywhere to be expressive, anywhere to play.
Feel that.
But these days, the reason why I definitely choose to continue to go back, as I mentioned, definitely a labor of love. As a musical artist, it is kind of wild how much of the sort of default trajectory is like playing at bars. Play at bars, maybe finding bigger venues, maybe music festivals, yada, yada, yada. So like the bar scene in particular really doesn't feel that conducive to the music, the type of music that I make. I don't mean necessarily genre, but just like, this is an art form for me, for real. Like I really don't necessarily identify primarily as a performer or even an entertainer. This music is really a medium for me to like tap into a spiritual flow, tapping into a creativity that like really does feel like it's beyond me. And sometimes it's processing my own feelings, and sometimes it's writing a pep song for me going through my own thing, and like kind of my higher self like singing me through it type of thing. And when you're at a crowded bar, just alcohol fueled scene and mentality, like you're really competing with a lot of noise and a lot of like just static, and that just doesn't feel super conducive to like active listening. So I feel like there is a little bit more of that at farmers markets, and definitely music festival environments, and just more homegrown, just humans gathering, wanting to connect, wanting to hear each other's stories and be expressed and be heard in safe containers. So yeah, I mean, that's more so where I'm coming from, is really just wanting to add to the value of a local scene. You come down to the farmer's market, if there's a little bit of jovial music happening, of course people aren't like sitting around, getting crisscross applesauce, hands in palms, just staring at me, soaking in every word. But like, if a little lyric of inspiration can fall on some ears, that's just a bonus for sure. But just the vibe generally is enough just to be like a calming presence and a kind of uplift. Me, I'm always on the acoustic guitar. I got the 12 string, shining bright on that. And just to add a little bit to the brightness of a market and a local gathering.
As you mentioned, bringing poetry into a place like that through song and music, a lot of times it is just like one little line somebody might hear as they're buzzing by to go and pick up some things. And I've gotten to listen to some of your songs and music in the past, and I love it. There is so much enthusiasm about brighter thinking and existing and, going with the flow feels that is very conducive to my natural way of thinking, I would say, in which it's like little affirmations as you're going through the market. You're getting affirmations from the music, you're getting affirmations from the beautiful flowers and from people who are smiling, looking at different fruits and holding them and be like, I would like to bring this home. And it's a whole adventure there. Whoa! What's going on?
Wake the farm up.
So
100%. Yeah. I mean, you nailed it calling it affirmations. Like, some of the songs literally are mantras that I've picked up or just created myself. You mentioned Sola T. This is an album that I've been putting together since maybe 2018. A lot of those songs were birthed at not just farmers markets like the Northside Market, but around that era, I was a mobile market manager for the Brighton Center. That, Brighton Center, for anyone that doesn't know, is a nonprofit in Northern Kentucky. And they've got their toes in a lot of different pools when it comes to social work and, serving the community in that area. And one of the projects they started, it has since not continued, but the last year that it existed, I was the market manager. And so I was driving to 5 different locations and just setting up a one table stand with some local stuff and, all organic, yada, 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 good stuff. And I would bring my ukulele that my good buddy had just gifted to me for Christmas. I probably never would have picked up a ukulele if this guy hadn't given it to me. Like, definitely a bestie, and like really, that was a beautiful gift that is definitely like rippled outwards and like innumerable, or like, you just can't even like describe the ways that rippled out. That was such a beautiful gift. Anyway, so I'd bring this ukulele that I just got to the market, and like, some of those songs were kind of birthed by just noodling around while at the market. And anyway, so I was going to say there's one song from the Seanti collection that it's called Soul Ray. And it was such a simple guitar line, and I didn't want to convolute it too much because I have a tendency to gravitate towards writing more complex music. I was brought up in like the progressive rock sort of background, and classic rock, Zeppelin, stuff like that, where like I don't know, it appealed to me when music could go on this like epic journey. Sometimes I try to.
I'm with you.
Yeah. It tickles my brain, but then sometimes it's like keep it simple, like especially if it's a message that you want to resonate to a wider pool of people. Like sometimes you just want to keep it simple, have a 2-3 minute song or whatever.
Yeah,
so this is one of those cases, and I just started just real simply just going up the chakras, like, and just doing a mantra for each one. Starting with the root, grounded, primal chakra, that red orb at the base of our spine, just the I am. I just went on from there. Just very simple lyrics, just very much affirmations.
That's amazing. Yeah. I like the idea too of, I don't know, I love epic music that has composition and goes places. It's kind of like listening to the forest throughout the day. It has its like fluxes and ups and rises, and the settling into the evening with its different tones. And there's even like my favorite heavy metal bands would probably be like Metallica, because they would compose these epic songs, and but at the same time coming up with these ditties, like you're saying, to connect into these other places where people are attention span are like, we want like a 3-second ding, ding, ding. And, it's like, there's a place for that too. And you can even, I don't know, some of my favorite stories have stories within them. So I don't know, I guess like what I'm imagining is you composing some of these shorter songs. This is just stuff coming to me. I'm like a gardener guy, like playing in the realm of music, on the back porch. But like you take some sort of epic song and then you insert into that this other place that it takes you to, where then you're like set right into that little ditty. But you can pull that out and play it by itself sometimes too. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah. I love that. In fact, that's very much in alignment with that Seanti release. So like I said, I was working on it for years, and it really is kind of a conceptual album, not necessarily in like a rock album or rock opera sort of fashion, not like Pink Floyd The Wall or whatever, something like that. Green Day's American Idiot or whatever. There's not really like a narrative, but it is very much a thematic, like sort of depicting like a day in the sun from sunrise, the first song being like this sunrise sort of moment, and the last song being sunset. And I like how you put it, like they're even through, what did you say, like in the forest, like there's these ebbs and flows of like
through the day,
and then like simple moments. Like that feels true of the Seanti experience too, like Soul Ray being one of those like simple but really beautiful moments. And then like some of the last couple songs were like really epic, and more of those compositional journeys. And so, I love the ebb and flow of that, and having like access points for people too, having the simple stuff so that people can be like, okay, I can digest that. Because even the type of people like myself that enjoy more complex music, there's so much music in the world. You know what I mean? Like you have to have some sort of access point to like, why do I care about this? Or why is this something that I should give my very limited time of day, and attention, the most finite resource and currency we have,
Right. Yeah,
so that's an uphill battle to figure out like how to really do that. And like I said, I'm really not a performer, so I mostly do it for myself. But finding the balance in that, like how do I stay true to myself as an artist, but also like still, you know, try to tickle the algorithm gods for the sake of like, I know that there are people who would want to hear what I have to say through music and otherwise, like allowing it to be visible for the sake of serving other people is also something worth figuring out how to do well, even if that's the part that feels more like an arduous job and not, you know, doesn't come as easily as strumming a guitar, you know.
Man, I like you said something about not being a performer, but I've seen you perform several times in several different situations, you know, not just farmers markets. And I mean, that's definitely a performance on its own. I mean, I explore a lot of things, and I really kind of feel like there's a lot of interesting synchronicities and flows, and how like just being in the flow puts you. And it was probably, I think it's been 8 years now. It might be 9 years now. So I know I've known you at least that long, where I had been to a dear friend of mine's, you know, had passed away, and the whole group of our high school friends met up at the Stanley's in Cincinnati, and we took over the stage until like, you know, 11 o'clock or something. But then you came in and you were like setting up your band, and you had a keyboard at the time, I think. And you were like laying out some incredible ambient music. And I don't think you had any idea what kind of room you walked into, but you walked into a room that was full of celebratory grief. And I felt that, you know, it was just so in line and so perfect. And, you know, that's definitely a moment I, you know, could feel like what you were doing with your music too, outside of farmers markets. You know, it's something, you know, that you can feel, like you said, you know, why am I giving attention to this? You know, it's for me, I look for people that are coming through with that passion, you know, sharing it, and they're in the flow, and they show up in strange places, you know, like that are just in the flow. And we've known each other for a long time. And like, I think we just exchanged phone numbers last week or something, you know, and it's so
yeah, sometimes it's that slow burn. But yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that, because, you know, it's just a really great reminder to me to remember that like music is truly beyond my individual. It's beyond my ego. It's beyond just my ideas and my desires and my passions. Like I can use all of those things to fuel this fire, but like recognizing that like I'm serving that fire because it's going to keep not just myself warm, but like a lot of people warm, you know? And like when I enter a space to play a show, I never know like where the other people present are coming from, what emotions they're having or holding, what battles they're dealing with in their internal lives. You know what I mean? So like to really like check my ego at the door and not let my little, you know, because little things can like sort of throw off my vibe during a performance.
Yeah.
So to like be really resilient, to ninja my way out of that and like just still stay true to the course and like play passionately and play authentically and not be shy, you know? I mean, I appreciate you also reflecting like, you know, you've seen me perform and like, you know, basically it's just reminding me that I need to stop saying that. I need to stop saying that I'm not a performer, even though that's not like my initial motivation for making music, to be entertaining or to be a performer.
To be a performer.
It's still part of it. And that's something I can do. And I can choose to like not identify with that past version of myself that's like the shy boy and doesn't want to be seen and just wants to express, but doesn't want to have to like step up to the plate and do it in a way that is palatable and, you know, whatever else. So yeah, definitely good reminders.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember another time to share with you all that we ran into each other. We're at this place in Cincinnati called the Junkyard that hosts some incredible local culture music festivals that, you know, bring together, you know, a really good, different, diverse interest of sounds and music and local culture together into this place. And apparently, I guess it had at one time been a junkyard. So, but you were there up on the stage that, you know, a friend of mine, Rich, had helped build. And I was there like the year before, like building some steps coming off of the home there. And this stage was like set up, and I got to walk into this event where I think when I walked in, you guys were starting to play right then. It was pretty amazing. And, it's just like a real good outside surrounded by forest. There is amazing artwork made by different junk and things there. You had like a drummer that was playing like some kind of electronic hand drum set with, integrating actual rattles and different things as well. Some amazing, beautiful singers, like a whole group with you. Like that was a performance, that was like festival. Like you're sharing with me recently too about performing at, what was it, Sage Valley? That's an area not far from me in Indiana that I haven't been to, that I've heard so much about. So, I'd love to hear a little bit about that, actually.
Oh my gosh, I would love to get you to Sage Valley. And yeah, before I get to that, that junkyard space was, what's the actual venue called? Is it called The Junkyard?
I think it is, but I'm not sure. It's a lady named Jasmine that's, a pretty amazing person that works with that.
Yeah, she was awesome. And I loved that space so much. So that was for Waterfest last year.
Right.
And
Water's
such
life.
A cool venue. I would love to return. We ended up doing the second annual Waterfest at Fibonacci Brewery this year up in Mount Healthy, because me and Ryan, the drummer that you mentioned, our band Dream Factory, we have a monthly residency at Fibonacci. So every third Saturday we're there. We play a couple sets. It starts at 6. We'll do a little kind of acoustic, mostly covers, dinner set, and then we'll do our original set, and then we open up for the rest of the night to be open jams. We allow other people to come on and either throw down with us, or I'll lead the stage. Any of us will lead the stage, kind of let them, lead a song, have other people back them up, blah, 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 blah. Just a fun little open jam. Anyway, that venue was a little bit more conducive for Waterfest because it was kind of a smaller crowd, and the Junkyard was a pretty sizable space.
It was
definitely
good
perfect
big
for
open
some
space.
music festival stuff. So I'd love to be involved with that in the future.
Yeah, keep encouraging these
but
things.
Yeah, Sage Valley is beautiful. Like I want to say semi, or if not entirely off-grid community in Indiana, and I've been visiting there for the last few years. It was 2021 that I went there for the first time. And I don't even know what to say about it. They're just very much about trying to figure out how to reconnect with humans' ability to survive without reliance on the machine, very much in alignment with farmers markets and the gardening efforts, and just, kind of taking our power back from the way that we have outsourced that to capital and to consumerism and all of these things, kind of like convoluting the situation for sure. Yeah, giving us a lot of luxury, but at what cost? I think we all know that there's a heavy shadow to that. So it's been a really beautiful community to be a part of. I played music there several times, and they're really family friendly, family focused. They've got a kid village and a little schoolhouse, like a small little yurt schoolhouse. And yeah, every time I show up there, it's growing, and they're constantly building more to it. Got a kitchen space and a stage, and yeah, it's just a beautiful space. I would love to get you up there.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to support that. That kind of brings me to so you guys can see like how amazing Seanti Aeris is. Like, and we haven't even, I just want to remind you, we haven't even talked about ReMinders podcast a whole lot yet. Like, I'm curious, do you like get to do recordings with people at some of the different events? Like, have you gotten to do any kind of live show kind of event before? Like, you're going to some amazing events. And like, I know I've seen and listened to several of your episodes in the past, and, just curious, is that like something you're like connecting through? I feel like we're weaving through a lot of amazing places, but like, what are some of the niches of your podcast? Tell us about your podcast. Amazing stuff.
Yeah,
People,
man.
check it out.
Well, I've never done any on location events or anything for the podcast, but you're inspiring me right now to figure out a mobile rig. Would be really fun. I'm going more into a studio setup, the studio interface and everything like that. So it's always been at my studio or other people's places. I've never done anything outside. That would be really cool. It would be really cool to be able to bring that to festivals. I just got home a couple days ago from Grateful Fest up at Nelson Ledges.
Nice.
And just had the time of my life, one of the best weekends of my life, for real.
Gratitude.
And it would have been cool to sort of like facilitate a little side mission, side quest of recording some conversations. Because I mean, that's really where the podcast was birthed. Is just that I love having heady, hearty, deep conversations with people, and I've found that the more I do it, the more confident and flowing and fulfilling it becomes. You know, I've learned how to ask good questions, and as you do, and just being curious about people. I did a podcast with a friend of mine several years ago that was called Breakthrough Consciousness, and prior to that, I had never even really considered making a podcast. It just didn't really.
Sure.
You know, again, I am growing out of this like shy boy identity that I had for most of my childhood and upbringing. I was like, I don't want to like, you know, talk into a microphone and ask people to listen.
What do I got
what do
to
I have
say?
to say?
You know, like,
So he and I just like upon the first time meeting, got into a really deep conversation and just became fast friends. And he had the idea of starting a podcast. I was starting to listen to podcasts for the first time and was enjoying, you know, just consuming them on that end. So I got inspired to do that, and things fizzled between the two of us. And with that podcast, about maybe a year or two after that sort of hiatus, I just decided to get back into it. It started out as an extension of a lucidity practice that I was doing. I joined a online group. This kind of like COVID times, you know, spending time indoors, just like, what am I doing? How can I focus on my spiritual practice and like all this while the world like is seemingly crumbling all around me? How can I like wake up in my own dream? You know, so I joined this dream group online and learned quite a bit about lucid dreaming. For anyone not familiar with the terms, is like, you know that you're in a dream, you know that you're dreaming, and you can start to cultivate awareness within the dream to be able to just be aware that you're dreaming, and then beyond that you can start to sort of influence what happens and create some creator mode type of experiences, which is just like so cool and such a trippy thing that we all dream almost every night, whether or not we remember. Just the fact that, you know, our body goes paralyzed and our minds burst and bloom into whole other dimensions of reality just blows my mind. And the fact that so few people are talking about it, you know, it's just nuts to me. So anyway, that was kind of like the initial idea that sort of was birthed in that phase of my life. The full title of it is ReMinders for Living Lucid.
Boom.
And my whole thing is just that I really kind of feel like life itself is, in a sense, a dream. So what ways can we create lucidity within our own waking lives too? You know, just to sort of take a step back and be the witness to what's happening, rather to be so identified with our egos, so, you know, in the weeds of the experience, just to sort of take that breath, take that space, sort of zoom out a little bit and find some flow and some freedom and some peace, and just like watching the whole thing unfold.
I know
all part of the niche of the ReMinders podcast. I've sort of have taken space from it the last couple months, and I'm actually really inspired to get back into it. But yeah, it's just an excuse to, at this point, to have party conversations with friends. And there's definitely a few themes that I like to always come back to that tend to surface in my conversations with people anyway. And yeah, I'll let people dive into that if they're
I like
so
that.
inspired to do so.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I don't know. I think, looping through all of that too, I'd love to do more collaboration with you as we, journey in the flow, of course, but we'll do, some Wake the Farm Up reminders.
Totally.
I like that. And maybe even, be able to figure out some different live show events that we can kind of co-host together. I enjoy the co-hosting. I love, like you said, I got into this and I'm at the point where I have a lot to say, honestly, and I'm really confident about that. But I ultimately love listening to other people more so than just listening to myself all the time. That's where I've developed, I think, more of that. I feel like I developed that conversation from being at farmers markets for 13 years. And it's kind of delved into this, almost like my jam band instrument of things, looping things back and forth. And I feel like you and I have a lot we can share with each other too. 2 years ago, up until more recently, I was editing everything with some free earbuds I got from an airplane ride one year. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, nice.
When Gardner goes and tries to make a, recording situation, I probably just learned what an XLRS cable was a few weeks ago. I mean, I knew what they were, what they looked like, and how they fit together and all the things, but I'm learning so much. What's an interface?
Yeah.
How does that work with my Gardner brain? I'm hanging out a lot of times when I am doing a live show and there's sound tech engineers around me, just kind of feeling that just who we are. We're on the spaceship and Chewbacca and Han Solo are running around me, hooking up cables, and I have no idea what's going on, but they're making it so I can do my thing. And that's community, and, but it's also I like to push myself and be autonomous as I can and know what they're doing more and more as I go. And hopefully, and I've seen it too, a lot of them know more and more what I'm doing because they're getting to hear things about foraging and wild mushrooms or something, that they might not normally get to hear when they're just hooking up cables and working with different artists, bringing their different things. So, it's a really fun journey just to keep pushing into it. And it is funny. The thing that inspired me was a friend asking me to be on a podcast called the Post-Apocalyptic Podcast. And it's after that, I was that's really fun.
Yeah, it's also just a really fun thing to do. But yeah, man, speaking of, I would love to co-host an event or a podcast. That does sound like a lot of fun. And like you're saying, we learn from each other, different expertise, and it's not that we all need to learn everything. Part of it is letting experts do the thing that they're best at. But also, that is the beauty of technology that we have today, is that a lot of times there are ways of doing things just more easy. There's more access to, for instance, audio interfaces or just using our phones to record and things like that. I think we have kind of, for better or worse, I mean, anyone could make the debate. I personally feel that accessibility might be a higher priority for me than high fidelity. But we've have sort of gone into, whereas I feel from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, we were on this upward trajectory of more and more high quality recordings and things like that. Now, a lot of people are listening to music through iPhones and whatever else, and just earbuds and, and things are being recorded on less than state of the art studios and things like that. And again, there could be a argument made that that's, a diminishing thing for society, but I feel that it's better just to get our art out there, because what really matters is the resonance. It doesn't matter the bit rate that it's coming through at, or the pixels or whatever the thing is, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just that the message gets across.
I do remember when I was starting that podcast, I looked up how to do a podcast, and it said the first thing to do a podcast is to do a podcast. And I was like, how is the internet actually giving me that information? Like, does it say that to everybody? I don't know, but that's what it said, and it made sense. I'm like, okay, I'll go do it. I'll figure it out as I go, kind of thing, and make my wings on my way down.
Totally. I mean, that's a big part of it. Actually, I was just having a conversation with someone where it's like, a lot of times we could burn a lot of minutes thinking about things, reflecting on life, strategizing on how to do the thing. Sometimes it takes just jumping in the water to learn how to swim. Like, we'll find out real quick when we gotta swim to survive. You know what I mean? So yeah. It's a balance. Like, we don't want to be reckless and just like totally head first and, creating collisions in order to know how to drive smoothly. But it is through experience that we're actually going to be able to learn how to like flow with the ebbs and flows of energy, and to find out what works and what doesn't. We can think about things all day, but a lot of times that just leads to analysis paralysis.
Yeah, and then you don't get to do as many things. It's like, okay, we could have done 10 things while we thought about it on the dry erase board and crossed this out, and we could have done this and that, and it's then you find yourself thinking that way, even like we could have, and just some things like we just got to do them.
Yeah, I mean, we could think about life all day, but we're here to live it. Might just do that.
I will tell you though, I am still having a lot of like technical difficulties, like just relying on people. Sometimes I was like, I'm still waiting to get my recordings from Summer Camp Music Festival, which was some incredible, like, improv musical exclamations and poetry drops and all kinds of things from so many different voices and people. And, I'm going to, just keep flowing. If they come 3 years from now, that'll be a fun little thing to listen back to for everybody. But, if they come sooner, that'd be great too. But yeah, it's just like the more I find autonomy and walking away from an event, having all the files of my own, bloop, 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 the more like reliable I can be in that way too, of sharing what I'm producing. And, I even had a recent remote recording where something was set up where I didn't know it was set up, where it hardly picked up my microphone at all. But while we were recording, I could hear it perfectly. And, I just couldn't put the show out. I felt bad. I talked to the person. I was like, I'm really sorry. Like, but can you record with me again and we'll have a masterpiece or something? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like making those calls sometime and then going with the flow. I could sit on it for another month thinking, should I, or just make the call?
Totally.
Flow.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up two things. Like, one is the trust, like trusting that things will happen in their own due time, but also like the autonomy, like, and the balance between those things, like trusting things to flow, and then like versus actually like facilitating a flow. We can go with the flow. That's like the yin nature, and we can also express flow. So it's like finding those balances within ourselves of our own, like masculine and feminine energies. It's like, where is it appropriate to be one or the other? Is really part of that balance. I mean, balance is just so key within life too. And that's one of the things that I'm really big on just in life in general, but also that I like to express to the podcast is like these ideas of non-duality. Because a lot of times we're so in the weeds of life that we, are running from what we consider negative experiences and chasing pleasurable experiences. And it's like, again, zoom out, just zoom all the way out. And it's like the two become one at some point. Like, can we find some freedom and just like allowing things to be what they are and not what we want them to be, or on some psychological level, like need them in quotes to be
right.
Like just like smoothing out all of those
I think
tensions within our body and within our spirit, so that things can feel more flowing and fulfilling.
Yes, all that. Yeah. No, like I'm a fan of exploring non-duality, but also kind of like accepting where it is and whatnot, and where it is like, I mean, there's a whole book called a thesaurus, it's like opposite words. so interesting and really builds a world of duality, good, bad, and there's definitely something to finding those aspects of life that are not dualistic and they're multi-mutualistic, symbiotic relations. There's definitely something to that, even finding those things within words and our meanings of them. Like I don't know, maybe there's an opposite to the color green, but really like green exists amongst many colors. So it's not like, I guess there's like colored, or I don't know. It's like there's so many colors of things. Like how can there be an opposite? But dark colors,
it's
light
all
colors.
contextual in that way. Yeah.
Is it a
Like
light green or a
things.
dark green? That'll tell you.
Yeah. Like knowing things through contrast too, right? And I'm also like very aware of the limitation of language, which is kind of a funny thing that I choose to use podcasting as a medium for expression, and that I love talking to people about these types of things. One of the things I like to talk about is how talking isn't really the end all be all, because like you're getting at, we kind of each have our own sort of personal definition and association with the same vocabulary. We may be saying the same word, but to you that might evoke, I don't know, an experience you had with a relative and they would always use that word and like it just had this different color and this different meaning to you, or like, whatever. That's kind of a silly example, but just how contextual
totally.
everything.
I just had that at a multi-generational gathering last weekend where I told this lady that was dancing and wearing overalls that she was fun and funky. And it stopped her for a second. She like kind of crinkled her nose and looked at me like, "What do you mean funky?" And I was like,
perfect
like
example.
what do you feel that means? And she said that it felt like I thought she smelled bad. I was like,
right,
that's interesting. Right. I'm like, no, I'm coming from like, who all wants this funk? Let's get this party started. You're there doing it. You're like doing your dance and making something out of nothing right now. Like, what's going on? This is awesome. I didn't even think about like, but yeah, there's so many different rooms where one word will mean something totally different. It's kind of fun to explore, and I feel that with words, they're a fascinating piece of art to work with and to understand, so you can have more of a palette to pull from to weave imagery through the words. But ultimately, like a bale of hay is not the word bale of hay. A bale of hay is a bale of hay.
Exactly. Yeah. Like Alan Watts says, like you can't drink the word water,
Yeah,
but
you actually need water.
I wouldn't say I have the most vast vocabulary, but I am very, not to sound like pompous, but I would consider myself a little bit of a wordsmith.
Hey, there was a lot
in the sense that I like to be considerate about what words I'm choosing to use. Mm-hmm. And I'll admit it's a lot easier to have that extra level of consideration if it's through written, like composing a text message or letter or writing a song, writing poetry, being able to revise it and really think about the words. Like when you're speaking, obviously you're just on this train of thought, you can't really think too hard about it. You got to kind of just tap into the flow. But again, more you practice and the more that you like develop relationships with certain words, the more that's going to flow in that direction. Like for instance, the word should. I have a vendetta against this word. I just think it's a garbage word. That's just it's rooted in shame and pressure and judgment. And it doesn't feel good, even when it's like meant to. Like, hey, you should come to this party. It's like, why? Is something bad going to happen if I don't? Like, it's just like, can we be like wise about the way, like, what are you really trying to say? I'm trying to say like, I would love for you to be at this party. Like, I want to hang out with you, something like that. Like, those are very different emotions behind those two different statements. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's heavy language. Sometimes, I numb myself to it because I don't want to be like out there like, I can't believe you said should to me. At the same time, so it's like, I try to be mindful of it too and explore, all the different techniques. And I think the big one for me, again, goes back to like listening. And then when you do speak, just have that I don't know, it's almost like allowing whatever words to come through and speak from a calm place, from your heart. And I find that works pretty well in most rooms, connecting with people, especially if they're feeling heard. When you're saying you should, a lot of times I feel like in, different things like that often invokes in a person in different, some places not as much as others. But often it'll invoke like a feeling of being projected upon or something. And, there is the instance, where a person goes to another person seeking advice. Then that person that's giving advice almost needs to be mindful of what they're shoulding, because they are putting a burden onto somebody to a certain extent, but the burden they're putting on them might be helping that person actually fulfill the quest that they're trying to fulfill,
Totally. And I think you nailed it too. It's like, it's really a big part of it is allowing like a space where people truly do feel heard and they feel like seen in this way. And if they're asking for advice, then like, yeah, that's a different space than just like coming out the gate with some shoulds and whatever else. And I also just love what you said about like just speaking from the heart and like allowing that flow to flow. That's such a great reminder.
Yeah, I was even like, thinking about that while I was talking, how earlier in our conversation, just not even that far back, I can't remember, we'll find out in the recording, but I might have said, we should do a recording together, Wake the Farm Up Reminders. And
you may have, and to be clear, I didn't notice and it didn't bother me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I still say the word for sure. It's just like, it's one of those things. It's one of those things I want to like consciously like change that habit to be more conscientious with my words,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not like I'm like, the should police or anything like that. Like, I will not stand for shoulding.
Yeah. I'm picturing
Don't should on me and I won't should on you.
I'm picturing you in my head being like, what would happen if we didn't? And oh no.
Right. My goodness.
Yeah, we're doing an episode here right now, and I think that's amazing. Wake the farm up. This is this is really special to we've bounced back and forth for a while, getting some things together, and we're just doing it because we should, not because we should, but just because we could. Not just because we could, but because we are.
Yeah, man, because we want to. It's time. Yeah, I appreciate you for putting this in motion and being patient with the delay.
Hey, it's all good.
And just pulling the trigger on and just like, yeah, let's just do it remote if we're not going to be able to like link up super easily.
Yeah, cool. Appreciate
just
that.
Whatever way to do it. It's definitely the way.
So before we close up shop for the day here, I wanted to maybe ask, mention the full name of your podcast again. Remind us.
Yeah, it's ReMinders for Living Lucid.
For Living Lucid.
Mm-hmm. And that's on my YouTube channel. That is actually the full YouTube channel is Resounding Source Guided Meditations, because it used to be primarily a guided meditation channel. Now it's a podcast, and where I have music and stuff like that.
But you have like archives in the past of guided meditations that people can find on there?
Yeah, on the YouTube channel, I try to organize things through playlists. So there is a playlist for the guided meditations. I'll still do guided meditations through the podcast every now and again when I'm feeling it, but it's not a super consistent thing. I did just start a little sub mini series within the podcast that, if I'm being honest, I really probably should have. It probably would have been wiser for me to create a second podcast stream for this so that it could be its own thing, but
Gotcha.
Then it's like, all right, then I gotta pay for another thing.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 all the logistics. But anyway, so there's a mini series going on right now called the Daily Tao. And so I've been they're just like 1 to 2 minute episodes. I'm just rewording each section of the Tao Te Ching at a time. So this is like the quintessential text for Taoism. the Tao Te Ching. And it's been really fun, you know, because I'm looking at this website that has 5 different translations of the text from the original. I guess it was Chinese or something else. And I'm just kind of rewording it in my own words. And some of those have inspired turning into songs. So I did songs for a couple of them. Anyway, so that's been the latest thing I've been doing with the podcast. But yeah, I've got another episode to record scheduled for this Thursday, and going to get back into doing some interviews and conversations.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So we'll include some, links in the footnotes so folks check that out. Again, this is another, I want to maybe could you give us a couple more recommendations of some of the full podcast episodes that, you would think? I mean, I imagine you like all of them. I encourage everybody to go search and find your adventure, but, maybe share a couple of the, episodes that you might even find yourself going back and listening to again.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. Gosh. The only ones that are really springing to mind, let me take a minute to think about it. Well, the first 2 that are springing to mind are I think the latest 2 that I did with other people. The latest one was with my bestie from Chicago, Selena.
Wake the farm up.
Tapping into our role. Okay, if the universe is abundance, what do I have to give? How can I make sure that the people I love are taken care of and feeling abundant and stuff like that? So yeah, I love that. I will do well to tune into that often. That's really what it's about.
I meant to sing you the podcast a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I would like to listen to that for sure. So besides that, what other lessons or reminders are coming up for you in life right now, or just experiences in general?
Honestly, I've had a hard time kind of putting it into words because I haven't been writing as much lately. But crocheting. It's this really unexpected thing that popped back up in my life a couple months ago. And it actually started with this sweater. I mean, not sweater. The scarf. It's kind of big, so I wear it like a shawl.
Nice.
Just out of the blue, I was like, I need to crochet. I was really stressed out. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on in my life. I was not feeling motivated to do a lot of the things that I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I just needed something to feel productive, and I felt I don't know, almost felt like I needed to have some control over something in my life. And so I pulled out some yarn that I had bought a couple years ago, never got around to. And I just started crocheting. And it's been years since I've seriously crocheted. I actually learned crochet in 5th grade, and that was probably the most I ever did. But it was really strange to me that, it kind of came back. I mean, not strange that it came back. I do a lot of different things. Some of them have to go on the back burner for a while.
Right, yeah.
But the fact that I got so deeply into it so quickly, and actually I would even say probably more, I've gotten more deeply into crochet than I've ever been. Aside from when I first learned, I was making a lot of stuff. But this is not the biggest project I did, but this sweater is the most complicated project that I've done.
So she came and visited me in January, and we did an episode that was really good. I got halfway choked up in the middle of the episode. We get into a pretty emotional and vulnerable space. So I would definitely recommend that one. And then there was another one I did with my friend Marielle. That was also one of my favorites, I feel like.
Marielle and the Flowers?
Rewatched it, but
Marielle,
yeah, those are the 2 that I can think of.
Yeah. Cool. Love that.
Yeah. I should now I'm using should. Now I'm ultra. aware.
You were gonna catch
shoulds.
ourselves doing that here. Yeah. It gets exciting, and like it's almost like that concept. Like you want to insert like I'm dreaming. Like can you insert dream like that kind of dream concept into it? Even it's like I'm dreaming of doing an episode together with you on a festival stage together with some amazing artists and musicians and people coming up and sharing like deep thoughts. That's like better than me saying we should. It's like
totally.
It's like sharing my dreams,
Yeah, absolutely.
As we create our hive minds and flow with the big ecosystem around us.
Absolutely. Yeah, love that.
Yeah. As we're
well, I'll give a shout to another podcast too.
Cool. Okay.
If because anyone listening to this is obviously into podcasting. I just got back from, like I said, Grateful Fest up at Nelson Ledges. So what got me up there was that it was used as the annual meetup time for this podcast community that is circled around the podcast called Very Ape, which is a Nirvana song reference. These are two people who are filmmakers. They've put out some really cool documentaries, one of which is called Wooks, and a lot of it was filmed at Nelson Ledges last year.
It's about Wooks.
Yeah, Wooks. Or maybe it is Wook. Either one. I think it's Wooks. And it's like a 40-minute documentary. None of it's narrative. It's not them like, and today the Wooks are blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's not like that. It's literally just documenting people speaking and going off on things. And it was a really beautiful expression. Anyway, they have a really cool podcast. It's just like very conversational, very, it's not like they go in with a particular topic. It's just like hanging out with some homies.
I love
So
that.
I got to hang out with them all weekend and met a lot of really cool, like-minded heads and hearts. And just had a really, really beautiful weekend. So I'm kind of riding that connective high, and thought I'd give them a little plug. So
love that. Yeah.
If anyone wants to add that to their list.
I'll definitely check it out. I love studying Wookology. There was a Wake the Farm Up Wook episode in 2023 where we did a morning Wook at things. And it was a great time to do a live show and interact with Wooks that are wandering around from the night before and people that are waking up early to have their morning tea. So
yeah, love it.
It made me.
That's so good.
Yeah, we get Wookie Wook.
Oh, you know it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining today and being part of this. This is awesome. I look forward to maintaining ground and, building and growing. And it's awesome to walk on the earth at the same time as you, So, yep.
100%. Yeah. Thank you so much, man. Super appreciate the thoughtful questions and just holding the space, facilitating and getting this flowing. Super appreciate it.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Everybody give a shout of applause to Seanti Aeris. Yeah. Hey, cool. That's right. All right, let's go. Let's go into the forest now. Yeah, let's turn these things off. Okay, let's turn them off.
Disappear when I face that. As the motive we need some healing to face the land. Just choose to break through. Now the only time we have to be me.
Make the form up.